give Patrick another hand. His name is Patrick. My name is Patrick. I used to be in the room with two Patricks, but I mean, hey, he wears the name well, and I'm coming behind him, so I plan on doing the same. Honored to be here. I want to thank BRET for having me, Ms. Kim for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak on behalf of 100 Faces of Freedom, on behalf of an ex-offender, a cause that's near and dear to me, as our brother said, because it's a lot in there. It's a lot with incarceration. A lot that people don't know that needs to be taught, you know. Also want to thank Rhonda, right? Rhonda, thank you for being here and thank you for sharing your testimony with me. Very encouraging. No matter where I'm at, I'm always a little more attached to the stories that's going on. Because everybody has a story. You know, I have one, Patrick had one, Ms. Kim got one, and Rhonda got one. And your story is very encouraging, so thank you for sharing that. I want to thank Mr. Emmett Schenkel. Man, I met this brother and he has been assisting me in me being home and getting more acclimated into the community. So I thank you, brother. I thank you for your help. I want to thank friends for coming out. I got a friend here that came to see me speak today, so I thank you for coming. Thank my family for coming as well, supporting me, my lovely wife, and busy kids in the background. I think they're asleep. So thank you all for coming. Hold on one second. That was funny, bro. He said, hold on. That was funny. That was funny. So I'm privileged to be here. I'm honored to be here. I'm going to begin. I gotta say this. Thank you for that poem. That poem touched me in a real special way. I'm going to share a little bit about my story. Didn't know my father. So that poem took me to the place of him. He learned about my incarceration. So I was imagining him hearing about a son whom he'd been distant with for all these years, finding out he was incarcerated and having to deal with him in that situation. It put me in that train of thought, so that was very good. Hopefully you can publish that. I think that will touch a lot of people, for real, because it's a very real situation. I've been incarcerated, and I'm pretty sure Patrick can say the same thing. I've been on the yard with fathers who've watched their son come to prison. So it's a very real thing, you know what I'm saying? That connection right there, from the inside as well as from the out. But I want to begin with a poem that I've called, and it's very hard coming behind him, and I agree with you, very tough. He always does such an excellent job, he sets the bar high, and he has an awesome testimony as well. This poem is called 3 Weeks. 3 weeks can seem like a very long time, depending on how you're looking at it. I've seen buildings built, I've seen bridges torn down in 3 weeks. 3 weeks can seem like a very long time, depending on how you're looking at it, right? What if a kid was looking at it? What if a kid only had 3 weeks to build a relationship with his dad? I wonder, would that kid still view that time as being long, or would he fight for every second of every day, striving to create memories that would last long after the presence of his dad is gone? Memories that would cradle him in the night and shepherd him in the day. Memories that would keep the wolves in sheep clothing away. Memories that would encourage him to, when he fall down, not to stay. Memories that would encourage him to stick around when he wants to run away. Just memories that would encourage him. Words that his pops used to say. Imagine all of the repeats this kid would have to hit in order for all of his pop's greatest hits to be replayed. He would have to stretch his mind in a way that would seem AI. Defying laws of time, which like sand in an hourglass continue to pour, taking with it memories we've worked so hard to store. No big deal when we can create some more. But I ask you, what if your ability to create memories was poor? And all you could afford to do was hold on to what you had. Does no good to desire something new, and what is needed to make it happen is beyond your reach. See, there's not enough money you can pay to create a new dad. Nor could you work hard enough to make him come back. I'm just working hard enough to keep these memories in front of me, because once they've turned their back, I'm afraid that that's that, and I'm left with a reality that all too many face. 3 weeks is a long time, depending on how you look at it. But what if a kid didn't even have 3 weeks? Or what if those 3 weeks happened when the kid was too young to remember? What if 21 days after birth, a kid never saw his father again? And the acceptance he was supposed to get from Pops, he ended up getting from other men. And because these other men could never have the love that Pops had, they encouraged him in ways that Pops never would. So he stayed down when he was supposed to get up. He ran away when he was supposed to stick around. When he looked for the encouragement from Pops, all he heard was that empty sound. A sound that was quickly filled with hunger pains, mom's weight loss and gains as she went through the motions of how can I maintain with this madness on my brain, you know that old poverty song. And it wasn't long before the kid with only 3 weeks of lifelong lessons from Pops created his own song, chants of how could school help me in my situation? I'll take from the rich because they can afford it. Hanging out with the gang members makes me tough. How many women can I get with? Police are haters. I need a blunt every morning and a drink every night. See, I wrote these verses not knowing that a judge would collaborate with me on the hook. 20 years and 4 months is what they took, or rather, what I gave. I wonder if they knew I only had 3 weeks with my pops, with the sentencing process had gone a little different. Today, I look my son in the eyes, and I'm grateful that I have more than 3 weeks to give. PSLP, poetically sound, lyrically profound, that's me. So, the 3 weeks, thank you. So, the whole thing about 3 weeks is, that's how long of an encounter I had with my father, my actual father. My mom got with my sister's dad, which is who I called dad for years. But I never knew my father. Even to this day, I still have not actually physically met my father. Praise God, we've had conversations, but I haven't met him yet. Looking forward to that. And as the story goes, and I learned this later because I didn't know this at the time, growing up, I only heard my father's name maybe like 3 times. And one time was for me asking because in my family, everybody's last name was either Williams or Crow. And I'm the only Seymour. So I got to the point where I'm like, okay, maybe I'm adopted because I don't really see people acting like me. I'm a little shy, a little standoffish. Everybody else is bubbly, outgoing. My name's different. I kind of look a little different. I'm like, hey, Mom, tug on the dress. Hey, am I adopted? She's like, what? Where did you learn adopted from? Why would you say that? And I'm like, well, nobody else asked Seymour. And she was like, oh, you're named after your father. I'm like, oh, so dad isn't father. Okay, it's a little interesting. So when I actually began to talk to my father, which is why that poem means so much to me, he said, the last time I saw you, man, you was 3 weeks old. And I was working. I came home from work, and you and your mom was gone. That was the last time I ever saw you. And that was tough to hear, you know. And like I said, every time I look at my son, I think about that. I cannot imagine only seeing him up until the point where he was 3 weeks. But that's what happened with my father. And for me, growing up in South Central California, there's 3 things common in South Central California. Literally, y'all. No matter where you're at. There's a church, there's a liquor store, and there's a neighborhood, a gang. Like literally, in the stretch of South Central, what is called South Central, you will find that on just about every corner, 90 to 95%. It's eerie how close all of that is in the same area. So we moved back to California when I was 11. We had moved to Mississippi. My sister was born out there, but I'm originally born in California, in LA. We moved back, and it seemed like as soon as I got off the plane, I was just acting a fool from the time I got off the plane. We moved around a lot, moved into different areas. We moved to this one area off of 69th and Main, and there was a gang in that area, is a gang in that area called East Coast Crips. And I became affiliated with this gang. And what I noticed from this gang was they had some answers that I was looking to. You know, I was a young kid. I kind of wanted the flashy things. I wanted better things. Me and Emmett was sharing a story about shoes, stretching, and all that. I grew up in that. You know, my mom, she did what she could. Bless her heart, she did a great job. But she took a little and stretched it. But as a kid, you don't really get that. You just get that you don't have what everybody else has. So these gang members had all the stuff. They had the Jordans, they had the Nikes, they had the chains, they had the jewelry. You know, they were the cool guys. And I wanted to be cool, but also I was badly looking for the male acceptance that was lacking in my household. So I began to hang out with these guys. And of course, as I began to hang out with them, their habits became my habits. I'm starting to smoke now. I'm starting to drink now. I'm carrying a gun now. I'm carrying a rag now. I'm ditching school now. I began to take on the mindset that they had. This became my mindset, a street guy. Now, I didn't grow up a street guy. That wasn't how my mama raised me. So like he said, I'm learning a lot of this stuff on the cuff. You know what I'm saying? I don't have the stories of uncles, you know, going off to prison and coming back and sharing this, and I didn't have that. So I'm just this guy who's really not from this world, but I'm blending into this world. And there was already a conflict with that. Because it's either you in it or you're not in it. You see what I'm saying? It was always a conflict with me. But I'm in this neighborhood and I'm taking on these things, so eventually it culminated in 2002. I heard you say your first parole hearing was 04. 02. Okay, so 02 was my first year in. So 02, I was 16 years old, had just turned 16. And I got locked up for a series of crimes, carjacking, robbery. I mean, in one night, I tried to do like a David type of thing, where I just did everything I could that was against God, like everything. And it caught up to me. And because I didn't have this, you know, prison history and all this type of stuff, I was messing with guys who were older than me. They all beat me to pleading to lesser crimes. So the harsher of the crimes all fell on me, which is how I ended up getting 20 years and 4 months. All my crime beings, they got 5 years, 6 years, older than me, ex-offenders, records already. I'm this 16-year-old kid, never been incarcerated, never had an encounter with the police. Had the district attorney come to me and tell me, Mr. Seymour, I know you didn't take the car, but unless you get on the stand and tell us that, you're going to take the time for the car. That type of situation. Hold on 1 second. I'm just messing with you. I'm going to take that with me. That's a cold story, man. That's a cold story, man. So that's crazy. That definitely needs to be taught against. So I ended up getting this time, and I'm like a fish out of water. I'm 18 years old. I think you said you was 18 when you left. I was 18 years old when I went to the state pen, right? Level 4 maximum security prison. I was this young kid, you know, probably bigger than my son back there at 18. He probably bigger than I was then. And it was very intimidating. I was scared out of my mind. I had no idea what was going on. There's only so much mama can do when, you know, she comes to visit you and they close the gates and she got to go, and now you're here. So that was an adjustment. I had to learn how to adjust to that. And what I did was I did what I had done to get me into the situation. I attempted to blend in. So I was already gangbanging, so I met up with the guys in there that was gangbanging from the neighborhood that I was affiliated with. And they took me in and they taught me how to survive in prison, how to make pruno, how to make weapons, how to evade the police. Same thing we was doing on the streets. How to get high. Same thing. Same thing happened inside of them walls. They taught me all of these things and I began to do this. Well, what happened was, see, I grew up in a Christian household. So throughout my whole incarceration, I have been straddling this fence of giving myself to God or giving myself to the homies. That was the fence that I straddled. I knew God had an identity for me that was different than what the homies did. And at the time, the homies' identity was getting me further than God's identity, right? So I kept putting God to the background until I couldn't no more. I was tired. I had got as high as I could get. I was high when I came to this epiphany. And I just asked myself a question like, is this your life? Is this what you want? Is this really what you want? Because I know where this is going to end. It's only one road this could end in. I know where this is going to end. Is this really what you want? And I didn't. That's not what I wanted. So I became a Christian, and that began my journey of real repentance, real contrition for the things I had done, and real change. Now that I'm a man of God, I can't think the same. I can't do the same things. That was the catalyst for me. It wasn't prison. You know, I think that's a misconception that the penal system have, is that the harsher the crime, the more to make a person change. That's not true. You know, the majority of people who go into prison who have long terms like ours, the reason that recidivism rate is so high is because they're not doing anything to better themselves. I mean, you have a few examples who go in there and get their education and all these type of things. The majority are not doing that. They're in there and they're learning how to be better criminals. So it's not the prison system that changed you. It has to be something greater than prison. Prison will get your attention. It will make you think, but it won't change you. And so for me, my change began there. The company that I now sit on is COO. We began to form that company in there. I met my business partner in there, and actually, me and him used to be rival gang members. Irony of God. And now we are business partners. We co-founded the church and pastored the church together while we was on the inside. And so then I came home, and for those who know anything about prison, you have to give them 85%, or at least that's how it is in California. So I was sentenced to 20 years, 85% would have been 17. I did 15. There's some time missing in there. Well, what happened was they passed the law. The law said that since I was a juvenile when I committed my crime, they had to give me a hearing to see if I actually understood what I was doing at 16 years old, right? It amazes me something. It's just like you said, there's a system designed around incarceration. When they pass a law to say, were you thinking as an adult at the age of 16? My question is, when did you come to the conclusion that a 16-year-old didn't think the same as an adult? Where was that understanding when I was 16? But like Big Pat said, I don't regret the time because I needed it. I needed it. Without that time, I don't even know if I would be here, literally. Because I didn't have a vision for my life past the age of 18. So I don't regret that. But anyhow, I was one of the first to come home under that new law. Many got denied before me, but I was one of the first to come home under that new law. So I came home in 2017. One of the first early obstacles. So I met my wife. I was introduced to my wife through my business partner. They were knuckleheads in the streets together. I think I can say that and still make it home tonight. Because that's past life. That ain't current. That's past. So they knew each other from the past, and that's how I met her. And when we talked, we had of course, a long distance relationship. Came home and I'm like, okay, we've been building for 2 years. This is the woman, like you said, a great woman like Miss Kim. This is who I want to marry. This is who I want to be with. No big thing. We get married. The big thing was she lived in Texas. I live in California. Now, keep in mind, I come from a kind of a small family. So when I went to prison, it affected a lot of people. When I came home, it impacted a lot of people. I had been home 6 months, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to go to Texas. Ooh-wee. Still get some of the flack for that decision. It's just now starting to ease past because they see, of course, like, the marriage is real, it's solid, the love is real, kids are born, we got kids and all that. But that was a big obstacle because when you've been gone for so long, and literally, my mom, when I say she made almost every visit every week, no matter where I was at in the state or out of the state, because at one point they shipped me to 2 different states. I went to Arizona and Oklahoma. And my mom, who I don't know how made it to visits, like, that was my mom. You know what I mean? You talk about a support system. I had that. My mom was there. Even before I could even begin to talk to her about what I'd done, she was there. So it was tough for me to say, hey, okay, moms, I'm home. I know I've been gone for a long time, but I'm married. This is my wife. I need to be with my wife, right? That was an obstacle for me because, I felt, like you said, you carry the burden of what you've done. And one of the things, I've learned to forgive myself. But one of the thoughts I just can't shake is just seeing my mom come in here all them times, man. And to know that she left and I stayed, you know what I mean? I remember when I was being sentenced, I told my lawyer, I said, man, I don't want my mom in the courtroom. I don't want her in the courtroom. I ain't gonna be able to take whatever he got for me. And my mom was sitting there. So not only was she sitting there, as mama, he told me, he said, but I told her, but not only was she sitting there, but she had took the stand and gave like some final words. And her final words were, let him go and I'll do the time. Yeah. And she meant every word. You know what I mean? Meant every bit of it. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And I couldn't even wrap my mind around it at that time. But now looking back, it's one of the things that I just, it just holds on and it kind of grabs me. My grandmother came to see me. She saw me one time. didn't even finish the visit, left out. You know what I'm saying? You know, stuff like that. So, you know, it coming home meant so much to my family because they was there with me. Like they wrote me, they came to see me. So, you know, now, you know, I'm coming home and I'm not 16 anymore, right? I'm 33 now, so I got different things going on in my life, and one of them being my wife. So that was a big obstacle. Another obstacle in the household for me was this. So now, I am who my family wanted me to be. I'm a man of God, I'm married and all these things. But I was a little bit more than what they thought that would look like. You know what I mean? Like they still wanted like little shades of who I used to be without me being that full street dude. But they wanted, just a little bit of shade. You know what I mean? I'm like, look, I can't do the shade no more because I don't know how to do a little. I either do all or none. So I don't know the middle ground of shade. You know what I mean? So I'm like, listen, y'all, this is who I am. This is who I'm gonna be. This is where I'm at. So I'm in a household with my family, and they're not really aligned around that. So that created some discord. And what I had to learn was, although while being incarcerated, I went to a drug program. I did a drug program for 3 years. For 1 year, I was there. For 2 years, I became a mentor. And in that program, they had cognitive behavior, which teaches you to begin to work on those core issues, like the anger, the abandonment, you know, the fear, and all these different type of things. So I went through the course, but one thing, and this is a great, it's a great topic, I guess, in the community, when a father is absent from the household. For a young man, he loses so much. One of the things he loses is, and this is one of them common traits, is how to disagree, how to be in your emotions and govern your emotions as a man. You know what I mean? Because men and women both have emotions. But I think as a man, it's kind of a greater responsibility, especially when you're having a disagreement with a woman. Which is why it's not a far-stretched idea to see that in these communities, when you look at domestic violence, the rate is very high. And you can attribute that to a father not being in the household, or a father being there who didn't properly teach his son how to disagree. So I'm in the household with my mom, and we having disagreements, but we both on 10. We both on 10. To the point where people coming downstairs like, hey, man, everything good? And they're like, yeah, we good, man. Get away from my door. But you right, though, because you checking on my mom, but like, I'm her son, you know, we good. Like, so I had to learn, and my wife has helped me tremendously with this, but I had to learn how to disagree and disagree maturity in a healthy way. And that's a big roadblock for an ex-convict, because if you out here and you disagreeing with people and you get on 10, that could lead you back to prison, because you never know where that encounter is going to go or what that encounter is going to cause for you. And I've known people who have been in situations like that where, yeah, they've made the change and now they're doing better, but because they haven't conquered that other part, that inner core thing, it triggers something, and then they end up recidivism. They end up going back in. So that was a big obstacle. And I had to work on that in my household. You know what I'm saying? I would come home from work, and somehow it would just come up. I wasn't even looking for it. It would just come up. Right? And then I had to deal with that. So that was a big obstacle because I had to learn how to stand firm for who I am today and show love to the people that's around me. And there can be a gap in that. Sometimes you can compromise who you are to show the love. And then at other times, because you're so firm on who you are, you don't show the love. And for me, it was about finding the balance. How do I love you, even though we disagree on points, and still stand firm for who I am? That took some time. It's still taking time, right? And in that, I learned another thing. Here's another thing I learned. You have to give yourself time. You have to give yourself time. I think that what you guys are doing is great. Because not only do we have to be here, and I believe you said it, Ms. Rhonda, not only do we have to be here for those who are coming out, but we have to be here for the families. We have to be here to let the families know, hey, there is going to be a curve, right? That you're going to have to allow space and time for the growth of this young man or this young woman who's now coming out, especially when they've been in for a certain amount of time. Like Big Bro said, you got individuals who do a year here, 2 here. I know a lot of people like that. They call it life on installments. You heard that term before, where they do a year or 2 and they come out, they chill for 6 months, might chill for a year, they might make it 2 years, but then they right back. And they do another, but they don't do nothing over 2 years though. That's their max. I don't know how, but that's their max. Me and Big Bro, we got all ours in one lump. We did ours in one lump. But there's individuals who are, doing it on installments. But for those who have been in for so long, and I really feel like you was reading my notes too, man. I really do, man. I said, oh, you reading my notes. For those of us who have been in so long, there is a such thing as being institutionalized. And when I tell you, like he said, I didn't think I was, I didn't even have the proper definition. Because I thought institutionalized was, you come home, you can't really talk to nobody, you can't function, you sweating around people, you still getting into the shower with your shower shoes on, and you know what I mean? It's you wake up in the morning like, honey, it's child ready, you still calling breakfast child. Like, I thought that was institutionalized. I didn't know how deep being institutionalized went. So one of the first key examples, and I promise you, read my notes, I promise you, Ms. Campbell. One of the first key examples, it wasn't Walmart for me. I came home and I had this great idea. My wife would tell you I love surprises. I don't never tell them where they're going. They didn't even know they was coming here. We just got in the car. Love surprises. One of the things my dad did do that I always appreciated, he always surprised us. Even if we was going to a park, he would never tell us. We would just get in the car. But I had this great idea. I said, man, I've been gone. My mom, she know I'm coming home because she's been here. She know the process. She didn't know the date. So the day I got out, I didn't tell her. I think my wife may have known because I think she was still in Texas. But I didn't tell my mom or my little sister. So I said, man, I'm going to come home and I'm going to surprise them. So they dropped me off in the train station in downtown California, right? I'm asking them, like, where am I going? They're like, downtown. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's not far from 80th and Figueroa. I should be good. I've been going 15 years, but I know LA like the back of my hand. That's my city. That's me. Man, I get to the downtown train, and it was me, and it was another guy. It was an Hispanic guy, and we took the train down from. We was up north in Jamestown, so it's probably maybe 8 hours from LA. We took the train down together. I mean, he's on a whole different page than me. He was like, I'm free. I'm on the train. I'm drinking. You want to drink? Nah, I'm cool. Man. I'm good. Thank you. So he's on a whole different train anyway, right? But it was crazy when he did 12 and I did 15. When we got to the train station, we both was just clammed up, just fish out of water. And something dawned on me that one of my first roommates in prison, he had been in there 25 years when I met him. So he had been in prison longer than I've been alive. And he was one of the first people to tell me, he said, how much time you got? I said, 20 years. He said, oh, you'll be all right. I said, how did you say you're going to be all right to 20 years? But he had did 25. And he said, man, what you have to remember is that you're going home. He was a light. He was like, you okay, Ms. Runner? Okay. He was like, what you have to remember is that, you're going home. That's what you have to keep, your mind around. You know what I mean? And he also said that, and this kind of scared me, and I fought this. He said that after you've been incarcerated for 10 years, things are going to change for you. You're going to begin to see prison differently. I didn't get it. I promise you, y'all, when I got to 10 years, it didn't even seem like prison no more. That was just my life. That was just my life. And I didn't know it, but at that point, that was the institution. That was being institutionalized at that point, right? But this is how it started manifesting itself when I came home. So I'm in this downtown train station, and me and the guy are climbing up. But he goes his separate way, I go my way. So I'm still trying to stick with my plan. I'm trying to surprise my mom. Couldn't figure nothing out. Couldn't figure out. Like you said, I'm looking at they got a board here. His name's on. I guess these are trains. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I got a card. I don't know how to put the card in. I don't know how to get the money out. I don't know what's going on. Ended up having a panic attack, man. Just couldn't breathe. Could not breathe. Felt like I was just suffocating. Like I was just scared. So I went outside just to get some air. And this guy had the phone, and I was like, man, I gotta call my mom. Because I don't know how to get home. I don't know how I'm going to get home. So I ended up calling her, and she almost passed out on the phone. She said, what, you home? Where you headed? So she's on the way to get me. So I'm like, okay, I'm cool. So I walk out. I walk out from where I was at, and right when I walked out, guess what I saw? A taxi. I was like, oh, I could have called the taxi home because I knew my address. So I'm like, oh, if I'd have came here to take a breath, I would have been cool. Because my big thing, I just really wanted to surprise my mom. I wanted to really see her, yeah, she probably would have failed. I wanted to walk up to the door and knock on the door. So I ended up taking the taxi anyway. Because I was like, it's just one of the things I felt like I had to do. I've been gone 15 years. I'm like, I got to get in this taxi and go home. I end up missing her. I get home, she over here. It was crazy. But anyway, we finally met up. But that was one of the first times, probably the first time that I realized that I had been institutionalized. That prison had left such a strong impression upon me that it was showing up in ways that I didn't even think. You know what I mean? And so that was the first one. Just being in places where people were moving normal for me was fast. You know what I'm saying? It was sped up. And that's another thing that God told me. He said, man, when you get out, because you've been in so long and you're used to an hour of recreation and then everything's shut down, right? 23-hour lockdowns. When you get out, it ain't no 23-hour lockdowns. People were moving. It is amazing. He told me this, and this dude had life. Like but this is what he was telling me. And I seen that, and I was like, wow, so this is a real thing. This institutionalized stuff is real. Like, this ain't just what I thought it was, like, still waking up thinking that this is what it was. So that was an obstacle. To a degree, it has been for some time. The bigger part, because eventually you get used to being around people and all that type of stuff. The bigger part to me was just communicating with people. This was a big one. Because in prison, even for the best of us, I don't know if this was the case for you, but for me, even as the best of us, because you're around so many men, right? There's a way that men talk to each other that's just not offensive. You know what I'm saying? I might say something stern to my brother. He's like, okay, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. But when you talking to, ooh, Lord, Miss Kim, you talking to the women, ooh, you gotta watch that tone. That tone can make a difference in everything. It can change a lot of stuff fast. Like what you said don't even matter no more. Like, watch your tone. So I'm like, and I'm bumping my head because I'm like, tone. I'm like, but I just said, did you agree with what I said? But my tone, so that was a big one. You know what I'm saying? And that goes back to being institutionalized to a degree. Because that's how we are used to communicating, because we've been in this bubble for so long. Even when we stepped out of being ultra aggressive, we still had just a way of communicating that wasn't healthy in every situation. You know what I mean? So that was a big one for me, because I got my mother, I got my sister, my wife, my kids, and so speaking of my kids, here was another obstacle. So, I didn't really have my father. So I noticed that in dealing with my son, I was communicating with him the way my dad communicated with me, right? And my dad, he never, he wasn't abusive to me or anything like that, but he just had an in and out type of communication. Like, he was there, he'd tell you a couple words, bada boom, bada bing, and he gone. That was it. It was no personal space. There was no intimacy in him sharing information. It was just, he was there when he was there, and my dad had some drug issues. So when he was there and he was sober, he was cool. But because of his issues, it prevented him from being as intimate as he wanted to. So that's another example from a male's perspective of how to be a male that got cut off for me. So now my daughters, I'm great. But with my son, I said, man, why is it that it's difficult for me to just sit and just chill with my son? Like there it go. There it go again. It popped up again, And so that was another obstacle that was very close to home, because what I didn't want and what I don't want and what I refuse to let happen is for my sons to grow up missing out on the example of how a man becomes intimate and personal with another man. You know what I'm saying? Of course, the world got a whole nother thing with that. But from a healthy perspective, how do we have conversations with one another? And for those of us who were incarcerated, that's another hard thing. Because once again, the way we deal with each other in there, you cannot bring that into your household. You know what I'm saying? I'm dealing with gang members. I'm dealing with drug addicts. I'm dealing with liars. I'm dealing with thieves. So even at the best of me, my relationships is still to a distance, because I don't know what you got going on. I got to keep you in front of me. I ain't got to worry about that with my son. Patrick, kick back. Kick back and go in the room and talk to your son. You ain't got to worry about him doing that. That's your boy. You feel me? So that was a big obstacle for me as well. So I had to learn how to get that. Learning how to get personal. Learning how to get intimate. And not even just with my son, but like even just with my wife. with my family. I just had like a moment of intimacy, which was cool. But once you cross past that moment, I got fidgety. I don't know how to deal with it. Now we're doing a little too much. Now you want some hugs and all that. I don't really know how to do all that. You feel me? I can be in and out, but after that, like you still want to sit. Like I ain't really, So that was another obstacle. And these things, they seem small and minute. But as a business owner, here's what I say to those who were incarcerated and they're coming home, even if they want to work for someone, or they want to be, an employer themselves. You can't be an owner and don't know how to sit down and have a conversation with the people that work for you. So it seems small, but on a lot of scales, it will prevent you not only from being successful in the immediate, but being successful outside of that and things that you want to do in life. Even when you go and get a job interview, you got to be willing to get, a little bit intimate. You got to be willing to open up a little bit. If you can only sit for 30 minutes, and then after that you fidgety, you know what I mean? That's going to prevent you from getting this job. So that's one of the things that I would caution a lot of ex-offenders to understand, that you have to get a hold of that. I think a lot of times, because we view it as small, we don't try to get a hold of it, and it festers. And like I say, it keeps us from, by us, I mean ex-offenders, not y'all, but I don't know, some people still got the issue. But it keeps us from moving in that direction that we're supposed to be moving in when it comes to being successful and overcoming these things. So that's a big one right there. I also want to talk about circle of influence. And this is what I mean by circle of influence. What I've had to learn is that there are things I can control, there are things I can't. And one of the connecting factors, or I guess reoccurring factors, in those who are incarcerated is they don't do well with not being in control. See, you got to realize that most of the unhealthy decisions that we make, now this is going even outside of prison, or outside of convicts, most of the unhealthy decisions we make is in an attempt to gain control. Even when you look at an addict, drugs give them the ability to control something that's out of control. It's not healthy. It's not even a reality. You really don't control it, you numb it. But that's the reason they do it. Well, I joined the gang because I didn't like going somewhere and my mom was telling me we was window shopping. I went everywhere window shopping. I went to the 99, how do you window shop at the 99 cent store? Mom, it's 99, so we can't get this right. We can't buy this today? Well, son, just, we window shopping. So next time we come, next time we're going to be looking at the same box of tissue. I was just this young kid that was just frustrated, and I wanted to get control. I'm going to control something. And so gangbanging was a way for me to control something. When I started doing drugs and drinking, it was a way for me to control something. So one thing I had to learn was that those things that are out of my control, my father not being in my life, that's out of my control. How do you try to control that? That's out of your control. You see what I'm saying? You don't handle that. That's just something that happened. You have to learn how to make peace with that situation, not try to control it. It's two different perspectives. The fact that I did do 15 years in prison, that's out of my control now. I did that. I served my time. I get off of parole next year, right? Praise God. But that is, thank you. Praise Jesus. But that time that I did, that's out of my control now. I did that. I made my mistakes, right? I served my time. I paid back what I owed as payment for what I did, right? Now that's out of my control. So I can't try to control what I did in my past. Like, that's past. I have to let that be my past. I can use that as a stepping stone to say, hey, this is who I am. This is why I move the way I move now. But I can't attempt to try and control that as if I can make a difference in what happened there. And by that I mean even with the families of those who've been incarcerated. When we go back into our families, we got to understand it's a lot of hurt there. It's a lot of pain there. A lot of hurt, a lot of pain. I caused my family, and praise God, they never lay it at my feet. My mom never be like, man, my life was like this because of you. But you don't have to say it, because I know. I'm aware that, I created distance in my family because of my decision. There's a lot of hurt there. But what I had to come to understand is that, okay, we can work together to move past the hurt, right? But I cannot change what I did in my past. That happened, that did happen. I was wrong. I paid for that. But I'm not going to allow it to drive me. I can't. Not that way. I can allow it to drive me in some positive, healthy type of stuff. But I can't allow it to drive me in a negative way to where I'm beating myself up about what things are now. We have to work together to move past it, right? So a circle of influence. What can you control? The things I can't control, I have to identify those things. There are some things that happen every day that I think for an offender, it's like times 10, because it's like we're still trying to gain control. Because now, like you say, we're home. We have to do something. How do we do that? It's still the lack of control that gets us. So we got to understand to give ourselves time and understand that there are some things that are out of our control. Now, so it's tough giving this speech in some places because some places they don't see God as being the ultimate who's in control. So in some places it's very tough to give this because if you don't recognize God is having control when you don't, then it's hard to say, well, I'm just going to let go of control. Because now it's like I'm letting go, and who got it? Who got the will if I let it go? For those of us who know Jesus, Jesus got the will. So it ain't no, I can't have my hands on the wheel while Jesus got the will. I'm telling y'all something he told me a couple days ago. Son, let the wheel go. You get up, move over here to the other side. I got the car. Why you keep trying to drive the car when I'm in the car with you? I said, all right, you know what, I'm gonna slide over. Go on and get in my spot. But it's hard to give that encouragement to those who don't see God as having control. Yes. Because if like I said, if you step back, then you're like, well, who got it? So if you're telling me to step back, then who got the wheel? So it's an opportunity. But in some places I go to, they're like, hey, we know you God vibes, but we want you to just tone the God part down. You know what I'm saying? Just get an encouragement. But I don't compromise, but I'm not gonna turn the opportunity down. I'm gonna go in there and let God do what He do. Right. But for those of us who know that God has it, right? Then we have to begin to allow God to take the wheel. And what that does is it allows you to be healed. You can't heal and you still trying to drive something that you couldn't drive the first go around. I couldn't drive the car right the first time. That's why I crashed and ended up with 15 years. So why am I going to try to take it now? Because I learned a little more? Because I'm a little older? No, I still can't, you know what I'm saying? I got to let Him do what He do. And then He'll show me how to do what I do. You feel what I'm saying? So acknowledging what I cannot control, right? What I can control, that is where I should spend my time at. I can control how I respond to my sons. I can control that. I can control my tone when I'm talking to my wife. I can control that. I can control getting myself around people, brothers and sisters who have been there and done that I can learn from and glean off of. I can control that. That's where I want to spend my time. A lot of times we focus so much on the things we have no control over. We spend so much time and effort on that when it gets time to deal with the things we're supposed to be dealing with, we ain't got no more energy. We spent out. We're like, man, I probably could have did this if I didn't spend all day worried about Jack and John, who, man, Jack and John, I can't do nothing about Jack and John. I can't do nothing about that. Can't do nothing about that. Hold on 1 second, y'all. I'm just playing. I was just checking the time for real, just make sure I ain't going over. But so we talk about circle of control. So the last thing I want to talk about, because I know my time is running. She said, you got 45 minutes. Can you handle that? I said, 45 minutes? I'll probably go over 45 minutes, but I'm going to be mindful of the time. One thing I learned also is that we have to have what I call a bring you back type of vision, right? For me, it's my family. My family is to bring me back. Because as an ex-offender, my brother knows, when you're out here doing what you're doing and you're working to go the right way, but like you say, you get turned down. I can't be mad, especially as an employer. I cannot be mad at an employer who looks at my record and says, you know what, I don't know if you're right for the job. I ain't saying it's always a fair shake, right? I'm just saying I can't, it's a reason why they have that box there. Because what you've done is that's part of your credibility for this job. It shouldn't be the only factor, I'm not saying that. But the reality is that for those of us who haven't built up a backbone to that, that can be very daunting. Like you say, a lot of men and women go back to prison because of that. So you have to have a bring you back type of moment. When you out here in society and you learning to acclimate yourself again, we have to have a bring you back type of moment. I keep pictures of my family. I keep it in my car, I keep it in my wallet, I keep it in my phone. And that's what I do. When I'm stressed and I'm like, why? What did I do wrong? Well, let me go to this picture. Okay. I can do this. You have to have something greater than what you're going through. You have to have a picture of something greater than what you're going through. What is that for you? For everybody, it's something different. It might not be that some brothers and sisters who come home, they don't necessarily have a family. They don't necessarily have that great woman. You know what I'm saying? Or that great man. It might take them time to get that. But you have to have something that's greater than what you're going through, that is healthy. Because like I said, at one point in time, we had something that was unhealthy. So you have to have something that's healthy, that's greater than what you're going through, to bring you back. Because you're going to get stretched out. It's hard. It's hard coming. When you did as much time as we've done, it is hard to come back and acclimate yourself into society. I've been home almost 3 years now, and I'm still getting used to it. Like, it wasn't until my second year to where I was like, oh yeah, I'm home. Exactly, sis. I was just going through the motions. In prison, you learn routines. That's what you learn. And the reason we do routines is because, to one part, they keep you alive. So the routine is necessary. But that's a part of being institutionalized. Now you home and you functioning in a routine. You're not really in the moment. You're just doing your routine to get you through the 24. So it took me about 2 years to realize, okay, you know what? It's one thing to be disciplined. It's another thing to have a routine and you're not present in the routine, Patrick. That's not you being home. That's not you. Physically you here, but mentally where you at? I ain't talking about using drugs. I ain't talking about gangbanging no more. I'm just talking about just being home. Just welcoming back into the society. Being a part of society. It's not just a physical thing. It's a holistic thing. It's mentally, it's emotionally, spiritually, physically. That takes time. It takes time. It don't happen just when they say you out. One more thing I'm going to give. I think my time is coming up. This is another thing I had to tell myself. Sometimes, as an ex-offender, like my brother said, you feel like everybody is looking at you. Here's what I had to learn. Everybody out here grinding. Miss Rhonda grinding, Sis grinding, Miss Kim grinding, my wife grinding. They ain't been to prison. Emmett grinding, doing a good job, baby brother. Darn good job, man. Well, they ain't never been to prison. Everybody is grinding. Everybody. One of my brothers, he got a saying. He say, "Grinding by His grace." Everybody's grinding. Everybody's working out here. Sis, you're doing a great job. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. But you're doing it. So I have to tell myself, hey, look, if it's other brothers and sisters who haven't been in my shoes, but to a degree they got something way greater going on than I got going on, and they grinding, I gotta suck that up. Come on, Patrick, get it together. Put it together. It's hard. It's hard, Patrick. It's hard. But you gotta pull it together and you gotta keep going. You gotta keep pressing. You gotta keep pushing. So we have to keep that train of thought that everybody is grinding. Now, these are some of the tools that I've used to assist me to be able to stand before you today and say that I'm here, I'm still growing, I'm still working, but I'm here. And I have obtained levels of success. I'm a business owner. I sit on the board of a nonprofit, me, my wife, and my other business partner, doing similar things that BRET is doing. One of the reasons we linked up. Working on being more of a staple in this community, definitely in the community I helped to tear down, I now go back and assist to help build up. There are levels of success that I've reached, and I'm still growing in that. But these key things have helped me to get to that point, right? Okay, so I want to leave y'all with one more thing. I have to do this because Emmett set the bar high. So I gotta go, I gotta get one more. Okay, this is called, I Thought I Knew. Put my phone up so it won't distract me, bro. I thought I knew love until I met love. I thought I had it in the streets hanging with thugs. I thought I had it in the drinks and drugs. I thought I had it in the clubs. Turns out I was really lost in lust. I thought all the answers to my problems lied in God with trust. I turned my back on true love. Moms, I apologize. Little sis, I wish I could take back those tears from your eyes. What I really need you to know is how those tears helped me grow. When chasing after idols landed me in the belly of the beast, and one by one the things I placed my trust in became deceased, I had to come to my senses. And when I did, I realized the path to chaos I left when I was senseless, but it's too late to undo what's been done, just like we can't bring back a life that's been taken with a gun. See, we're so quick to glorify the things we did under the sun. I'm just grateful the Father forgave me for the foolishness I committed under his son. See, you got to understand. I began to mask all of my emotions with anger, and I put all the skeletons I could in a closet on a hanger. That pretty much sums up the mindset of a gangbanger. Not knowing that what I really needed had been born in a manger. I used to talk to God. I ain't going to be no preacher. See, I had a pistol in my waist way before Jack Reacher. I was influenced by the culture, a cult member. I was kneeling before money sculptures. Smiling while the money was piling. Couldn't tell me nothing long as me and mine was profiling. I was a know-it-all. Headed right to Juvie Hall. Didn't even see it coming, y'all. The steps I'm taking lead right to my fall. And I didn't even care because I was buried in a fifth from the swallow and I had to crawl. These are the excuses I use to abuse these universal laws. How you gonna mistreat someone but won't let someone mistreat you? I did unto all what a few did unto me. But as they say in the streets, go big or go home, right? That's the fruit from the forbidden tree. My prayer is that if you hear this, you do what I didn't do. And listen to me. PSLP, poetically sound, lyrically profound. That's me. Thank you for your time. I appreciate that.